Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our fall webinar series. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest, Adam Tarnow. Hello, Adam.
Hello, how we doing?
Awesome. Adam's going to tell us a little bit about himself, and as he does that, I'd love to hear from you. Tell us your name and where you are from. What part of the country are you at? Because today is the first day of fall. And so if you live anywhere but the Southeast, you're probably experiencing some gorgeous equinox-like bliss.
Yes.
Adam, what about you? What is
we're both in Texas, and it is 93 and incredibly humid. And so it just feels like summer over here. So
yeah, I don't know if y'all see that sun coming through, but that is blazing hot and not as much fun. Oh my goodness.
Well, our fall doesn't start till what, like mid-November around here, maybe? It's like by Thanksgiving, it's usually pretty cool out.
Yeah, and then it's brown.
Yes. Then it just turns right to winter for 3 weeks, and then we're right back.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to hear who is actually enjoying a beautiful first day of fall day. Bridget, yeah, you're stuck with us, aren't you?
She's in Dallas as well.
Oh goodness.
Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, that's a good one. So Virginia Beach, Dawn is in Virginia Beach. She's got some gorgeous weather up there.
Yes.
Have you ever been there, Karissa, to Virginia Beach?
I have not. I've been to Virginia, I've been to DC, but I haven't. Dave in San Diego, next webinar we are hosting your town.
Yeah, Dave's just bragging right now. That's all he's doing. So, but thank you, Dave. We're all envious. That's all it is.
Oh goodness. Well, Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself, especially for our audience that hasn't had the pleasure yet of meeting you and knowing you like I do.
Yeah. So Adam Tarnow, grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been in Dallas, Texas now for about 20 years. This is, just past my 20-year anniversary here, living in Dallas, Texas. So this is where I've been for a while. My career, the only way I know how to describe it is kind of like a Seinfeld episode, of any old fans of Seinfeld, where you had all these multiple plot lines that got together at the very end, and you were like, oh, that's how it all came together. So I had 10 years as a CPA. I had 10 years working for a nonprofit with a church, big church here in Dallas. And then the last 2 years, I have been focused on leadership development. I started a consulting firm that focuses on leadership development. And so all those things have kind of come together for what I'm doing now. And excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. I love your diverse background, but how it all led to this moment, because the things that you learned as a CPA, the piece that you learned serving in a church and nonprofit world, just how drastically different those might be, but really how it led to this moment that leading people is kind of the same regardless of what organization you serve in. And you've learned some pretty interesting little things along the way. Yeah.
And my accounting records are impeccable. So there's always that. So that's good too.
I love that. Well, you just released a brand new book last week, and tell us a little bit about it. We want to hear about it.
Yeah, The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In. It's a book for emerging leaders and those who lead them. This is a book that was written by my buddy and I, David Morrison. David and I met when we were on staff over at Watermark Community Church, and we've been close friends for the last 13, 14 years. So one of the problems that we were seeing out there, was really maybe not so much a problem, more of an opportunity. I don't know if anybody's been reading certain employee engagement statistics. They have been just abysmal for the last few years. Obviously, the pandemic did not help at all. One of the things David and I were noticing is how the conversation was very lopsided. It was all, hey, manager, you need to get better. That was basically going to be the solution to the low employee engagement numbers. And David and I were kind of scratching our head looking at this going, you know what, if you're in the early part of your career, you've got an amazing opportunity right now. So with these numbers being very, very low, we know through talking to our friends and peers and my clients that there's a lot of team managers and leaders out there that are just dying for somebody to show that they're all in, to show that they're committed. And so we wanted to just try to change the narrative a little bit there and look at the younger leaders and just say, hey, you've got an amazing opportunity right now. Jokingly, the bar's never been lower. So here's just a few things you need to do to try to stand out. But also, I think these are great things and some great practical ways that you can show you're all in without, sucking up, selling out, stabbing anybody in the back, selling your soul. You don't have to do that. To be emotionally committed, does not mean you have to adopt, the hustle culture or anything like that. There's just a few things that you can do. And we'll unpack this a little bit more in a moment, but the EDGE is an acronym that we use as these 4 major components of the framework: energy, diligence, growth, and endurance. So if you can show those 4 things, then we really think the sky's the limit, and you can start to really take control of your career and get it moving in the right direction.
Oh, exactly. So team audience, I want to hear from you. What does it mean to be all in? When you're thinking about your team, your employees, and maybe even the standard you have for yourself, what does that look like? We obviously have a ton of thoughts on that, and I'm going to give some tips and tricks and secrets, but help us start this conversation by what does it mean to be all in? Because I think when you're all in, it's really what's going to help you stand out. So there's in the chat, you can go ahead and answer those 2 questions, and we'll keep those comments coming throughout the time. But you kind of gave us a little bit of a sneak peek at them. A little bit of this edge that gives you the ability to stand out, to show that you are all in.
For sure.
Tell us a little bit more without giving away the book.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be all in?
Yeah. And this is where I think, the conversation that we want to have today on how do you try to coach some of these younger leaders, because I think that's another way that this book, that's why we put it in the subtitle. It's a book for emerging leaders and those who lead them. And so we're really going to try to focus today on the and those who lead them. And really the genesis of this book and of this content that David and I were putting together started at breakfast with one of my clients who was a new manager, one of the first times they were leading a team. And this gentleman was just a little puzzled because the people on his team, he just was candidly a little disappointed in them. He just didn't know why they didn't seem to be as committed to the organization and the organization's goals. He didn't know why they weren't as committed as he was. And so he was really puzzled and confused and didn't know what to do with that subtle disappointment. And so he and I at that breakfast really started mapping out what is some very specific language you can use that doesn't come across judgmental, doesn't come across like you don't have any hope in this employee, but what are some specific behaviors that you're looking for that would let you know this employee is all in? And so we went through and started to map out some this, not that. So you're looking for this, but not that. You're looking for this, not that, which then eventually became more kind of a keynote message or a continuing education message that then became some podcast episodes that then ultimately became a manuscript, and now it's in a book. And so that's where it really all started. And so hopefully, there'll be some of the team leaders on this webinar today that really will identify with that journey and some of that challenge that they feel sometimes, which is my team, they're just lacking some oomph. There's just some people on this team right now that need some coaching. They're different than me. I don't know if they are all in. So how can I communicate with them? What words can I use to let them know this is exactly what I want from you? So that the young leader is not just hearing, hey, just get better, right? Because that's not very specific at all. Just get better. So what are some other words that you can use? That's hopefully where this content will be helpful and this framework will be helpful. So what are some things that folks are saying on the chat here? All in, can-do attitude and working towards clear goals. Yep, that certainly is it.
Yeah, acting and thinking like an owner of the company, not just as an employee that is collecting a paycheck, committed and believe in whatever that mission is. And as someone who sits in an individual contributor role, I don't lead a team, but I am all in. And it's not just because I want the paycheck at the end of the day. I think a lot of times people that have IC seats, especially entry level recent college grads, they're like, what is it? What's in it for me? Like, I'm not going to get paid like the executives get paid, but you want me to act like them and you want me to have the same mentality and ownership. But honestly, being all in is good for you. Yeah. It's good for your development, your soft skills, your hard skills. And even if you may never be an executive in that organization, most of us don't want to sit in that entry level $15 an hour wage for the rest of our lives. And so not only is it going to help us develop professional skills, but I'm a better human being because I work at Leadr, because I'm all in and learning from the adults. Sometimes I still feel like I'm a kid in college.
Learning from all the adults over there at Leadr.
The adults, but learning from our leaders here, I'm a better wife, I'm a better mom, I'm a better friend because of the pieces that I'm learning here. And I wouldn't shortchange some of that if you're just sitting in an IC seat today.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so that's exactly right. I mean, you don't have to be a part of or be leading a team or be on a big team to be able to show that you're all in. I mean, that commitment is seen in so many different ways, as you are clearly showing at Karissa. And so that's good. I like what Amit is bringing up though on the comment there. First of all, Amit, what's up, buddy? That's my friend from up in New York, New Jersey area. So good to see you. But acting and thinking like the owner of a company. In fact, David and I put a chapter in the book specifically on ownership. And I think David in that he talks about it as one of his least favorite boss quotes. And because bosses, we all say the darndest things sometimes. We've got some really weird language that we use. And one of the ones that when he and I have been coming up in our career that we were always just so confused by, which is this idea of act like an owner. Act like an owner, act like an owner, act like an owner. And David will snarkily, it didn't make it in, the editor took it out, but just be like, I'll act like an owner when you pay me like one, right? So, which I think there's a lot of young leaders that feel that way, which is like, why do you want me to act, right? Like, why I don't want to go act like this. That feels inauthentic. That feels like I'm not being me in the midst of all that. And so we tried to change that conversation a little bit. I'm just going, maybe it's not so much just acting or pretending or faking it till you make it, but more learn how to think like an owner. Thinking like an owner feels a little bit more authentic, which is how do owners think? Well, they think about numbers and they think about certain things that are maybe different than what an employee would think about. And so we walk through that in the book, just some different ways to think like an owner, because I think that can be just as helpful and just as impactful. And really, I just say there's a lot of bosses and team leaders that just feel lonely sometimes, right? They feel like they are the only one who really cares and is willing to go the extra mile. And so again, if young leaders can start to understand ways that they can communicate to those above them on the org chart, hey, I care too, that can go a long way. That ambition, we like to say, will always attract some attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that old famous saying that more is caught than taught. So what does this look like? What does it look like to have employees who have this elusive combination of talent and emotional commitment? Because we're just not looking for the great skills. Just having a good resume at the end of the day isn't good enough anymore. You're really looking for that someone that is all in. And so team, as we're walking through this a little bit, we are so excited to dive into your questions. Please be sure to put them either in the chat or in the questions feature, the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end. And we're just going to keep cruising through all this as Adam walks us through. So you define this pretty interestingly when it comes to employee engagement. And I think it's actually the technical term. I just had never even heard the way it was defined before. But as my team, like we were reading the book, which we only had a few days to do it because it just came out. So, but it's been so fun for us to unpack. And that idea of employee engagement is just it's this buzzword, absolute buzzword right now. Everyone's measuring it. Gallup, in their most recent 2022 employee engagement survey, said 79% of employees will say they're not engaged in their work. They're doing just enough to just get by, to not get fired, and they're costing you a ton of money. Like 34% of their salary is wasted in lost productivity, not to mention the distractions that they're taking. So this is how the book starts. Tell us and unpack a little bit more about why starting with employee engagement laid the groundwork for having an edge.
Yeah, because I think it's one of these words, Karissa, that as leaders we throw around or you read in articles, but sometimes just going and looking at a definition and understanding what do people mean when they say this can really open up some conversations and help us define the problem well, because right, the well-defined problem can lead us to a solution that's really going to be helpful. I was just as surprised as you were when I was doing research on this to just go, what do people mean? What does Gallup mean when they talk about employee engagement. And it is trying to statistically measure the emotional commitment of an individual to the organization and its goals. And it really got me thinking about, do you remember the book, The Advantage, that came out a few years ago by Patrick Lencioni? And he started to talk about how all organizations are smart. Smart is no longer a competitive advantage from an organizational perspective. And he was trying to push the conversation forward and going, okay, so what is the competitive advantage now? If everybody's smart and everybody's talented, then what's going to separate a good organization from a bad one? And he put forth the argument that it was going to be organizational health, that now healthy organizations are the competitive advantage. That very much influenced David and I's thinking as we put this together. And so now, instead of thinking about it as an organization, let's think about it as an individual within that organization. And so everybody's talented, everybody's smart. I mean, this is the smartest, especially the generation coming out now into the workforce. Gen Z is the smartest generation that has ever come along. I mean, they've grown up in this golden age of learning. Content and knowledge is so accessible. Nobody knows how to use a card catalog anymore. Nobody knows what encyclopedias are, right? We had to do that stuff when we were growing up. And so there was work to get knowledge. Now it's super easy. So everybody's smart. So that really got us thinking, all right, well, what's the competitive advantage now? So if you are a career-minded young leader, what's going to separate you? And that's where this idea of emotional commitment really came in, going, I think that's the competitive advantage now. Everybody's resume is going to look basically the same. So those who are really going to separate themselves are those who are all in, who are engaged in what they're doing and showing that emotional commitment, which then led to, okay, well, how do I do that? Does that mean I've got to just give up my life to be committed to the organization? And that's where we wanted to tame that back a little bit and go, no, it's just a few things. There's just a few very simple things you do, and this really helps you pop. And that's where we got into the framework. But that's really the genesis of why we started there, because I think it's so relevant to this conversation and really what so many team leaders are looking for. And that's what Gallup and all these other organizations are trying to study right now. Where is the emotional commitment?
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit more why measuring the emotional commitment was so significant. What is special about emotional commitment?
Yeah, well, I think, well, first of all, the measurement is we all like to measure things so we can know if we got better or worse. So there is some aspect there that the measurement of it makes a tremendous amount, or gives you a lot of energy and motivation to know, are you making any progress? So it's not just this feeling of, are things getting better? Are people more engaged around here? And so it really, really helps with all that. But I think that's the one that really, again, if we go back to Lencioni's, take Lencioni's and now match it up with Edge, I think if the healthy organizations are out there and they're making an impact and they're going from good to great, then that's going to be made up of really committed all-in individuals. And so I really see this almost as a companion to that this is what's going to help those healthy organizations move forward.
Absolutely. Here at Leadr, one of the things we're always getting asked, how do I measure the return on investment of developing my people, of caring for them? How do I know this is going to work, first of all? And what I love that you unpack in the book is emotional commitment is the objective measurement, because you're measuring attitude and character, not just of an employee's happiness. Yeah. And we know happiness is so fleeting in any minute. You can get a paper cut and it ruin the rest of your 2 days because it burns so bad and you're no longer happy. So this I really loved, breaking down the objective, the easy wins, how to make this happen by being able to measure the emotional commitment through attitude and character.
Yeah, those are it. I mean, I think that's, again, in conversations that I'm having with team managers and leaders, and I know you all are having, that's what they want, right? We want the talented people who are competent, but also have this attitude and character that are not just great at work, but they're also great to work with. And that really then helps a team remain healthy, and so that they can go out and achieve the objectives and goals that they want to go out there and achieve.
Absolutely. So every great book starts with a great story. And this particular one started with a friend who was an accountant, just didn't even really want to say it out loud, but felt that tinge of disappointment. And so tell me a little bit, through your experience, through your study, Can you share a story about someone who wasn't engaged and how they got coached to engagement, or just maybe the drastic difference, what that looked like?
Yeah. I think about a couple of people with this, but probably one of the most, like, if I really think about it, like my story, in many ways, of going through times where I was just trying to, just be about me, or trying to manage my expectations, or not wanting to go all in, and really just having some leaders that came alongside me and talked to me about the importance of energy, diligence, growth, and endurance, and help me get to be a little bit more all in. So I can point back to, and I put them in the acknowledgments. There's so many leaders along the way, along my journey, who have had these smaller conversations with me to just help me understand that, as you were talking about there, Karissa, that really a lot of the meaning from, like, having a meaningful career really does come not from doing the bare minimum, but from actually caring and trying and really putting forth your best. That's where you're going to learn the most, and then that's where you're going to grow. And so there's a lot of that with me. I've got some others in my, that when I was a leader that I saw. I don't want to name names because they're probably on the call, or maybe this is recorded, it's out on the internet, but I can think of a few conversations again, and that's where I'll see a lot of this going. And I wonder if you've seen the same thing just in your organization, like your organizational experience, this ebbing and flowing of emotional commitment, right? Like, we go through work valleys sometimes, we go through good times and bad times, but just having people to continue to coach you along the way and help you can help you reframe everything and go, yeah, okay, I am all in here right now. I want to show this character and this attitude. Are you seeing the same thing too, that it's just kind of these ongoing conversations?
Absolutely. And I think the consistent thread that I've seen is when someone understands their why or their purpose, but as a leader, uncovering that, helping somebody get to that point, man, it's not only challenging for you to make sure that you understand your why, your purpose as a person, but just and as part of the organization as well, how you are uniquely contributing to your role and moving it forward and helping the people and influencing around you. But now you've got to do that for your team that you're leading. And that's really where that coaching piece comes in, that you and I've talked about so much, even outside of this call. And you use this really incredible illustration in the book with the jigsaw puzzle. I don't want to give it away, and I definitely don't want to mess up the illustration. So tell us a little bit more about the front of the box, the 100 pieces. I want to hear the details.
As I think about, so in the very beginning of the book, we talk about energy, right? That being one of the first ways that you can show you're all in. It's just this positive energy that you bring every day. And then we go, okay, well, where do you find energy? Like, how do you, do I just drink 5-hour energies in the morning? Is it stopping by Starbucks twice before I get to work? Like, how do I get this, and where does it come from? And I really think, and it was something that David and I said as we were researching and thinking about the book. He just said this one day kind of flippantly, like, Adam, I cannot bring pep rallies every Monday morning to my team. That's just exhausting, right? Like, I know I'm supposed to be a motivator. I know that's there, but my team has got to bring something to the table, right? They've got to bring some motivation to the table. So we really started there with a lot of young leaders. It's just helping them understand that energy is going to come more natural for you when you are motivated to do the work that you're asked to do. And so, all right, well, how do I figure out what motivates you? Well, now that's the challenge. And that's where we came up with this idea of a puzzle. And so, but it's a puzzle with a twist, a jigsaw puzzle with a twist. So a normal jigsaw puzzle, 100 pieces, all 100 pieces fit together to form the picture that's on the box. But the motivation jigsaw puzzle is different. There's 100 pieces in the box, but only 15 or 20 of them fit together to form the picture. And so this is you, and on the picture of the box, or the picture on the box, is you fully motivated, right? And there's 100 pieces in there, but only 20 of them fit together to make that picture. And so what makes that challenging is you not only have to find the 20 pieces that fit together, but you have to eliminate the other 80 that don't. And so that's the twist with this jigsaw puzzle. So it's not every piece is going to fit together. And I think about a young leader's journey. I think for so many of us, like, the first decade of our career is really just trying to figure out what motivates me. Like, what kind of tasks motivate me? What kind of organizations motivate me? How do I find that internal pep rally every day? Because we've got some things that when they show up on our to-do list, we can't wait to get to them. And then we've got some things when they show up on our to-do list, we would rather do anything in the world other than that thing. And so really now as leaders of young leaders, we've just got to help them connect those dots and help them start to understand that all of these things are clues. Every task you get, every job you have, every job title you have, those are all puzzle pieces. And you need to now look at it like that. Don't look at it as good or bad or failure or success. This is a puzzle piece. Do you like that kind of work? Does that kind of work match with your strengths and your interests? And if it doesn't, that's not a failure. Just note that. That's a clue. And you need to set that puzzle piece aside as you're starting to hone in where you think as a professional you're going to be at your best. And so that's how we think about we call it the puzzle of motivation that we have to put together, right? We've got to be able to put together those things. And sometimes it's eliminating a piece and sometimes it's finding a piece that fits. But I think that rings true to most successful leaders in their journey. Is we can all think back to times where it was like, that was not the right job for me, right? And so I'm sure you've got your stories. I know I've got mine. See also why I'm not a CPA anymore, right? Because as I was putting together the puzzle pieces, like, I don't know if that one fits, right? And I may be better over here. When these tasks show up on my to-do list, I'm way more motivated than when those tasks. So again, just having some leaders in my life that were helping me connect those dots and just go, okay, well, that's one way for me now to bring it's easier for me to bring energy when I'm doing things that I know I'm inherently motivated by.
Absolutely. And Adam, you and I, we both learned some of this in the hard way. Some of this just happens to be through experience and you don't have any other choice. But as a manager, you can start helping your teammates win by coaching some of those pieces. So let's dive into the meat of it.
Yeah.
This is the edge. Walk us through very high level. We're going to dive into each of these. Audience, as you guys are listening to Adam, he's going to walk through all of these. Feel free to start dropping in your questions. We want to be able to answer those. We're going to leave plenty of time at the end for all this, because this is a revolutionary summary. I don't think this is brand new information, but man, I've never seen this brought together in such a comprehensive, easy to digest way that makes it feel like now I can win.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that summary. That's a great summary. I need to record that and get that and put that on my website. But anyway, so yes, and so that's what it is. So candidly, let me give Ann Piper a shout out. So the first draft that David and I did was 10 ways to show you're all in, right? We wrote 10 chapters and we handed it over to Ann in the summer of 21. And she read it and she came back and just said, it's all right. Right. And so we were like, all right, well, thank you for the feedback. We needed that. But she really pushed us to go, I think there's a framework here and it feels like there's just too much, right? There's just too much here right now. And so that's where David and I started playing with it. And again, we were influenced by what Lencioni had done for organizations with the advantage and being influenced by that and thinking, how can we move that conversation forward with employees and this employee-employer relationship? And that's where we looked at the list and we saw there were some categories, and the categories ultimately came down to this: energy, diligence, growth, and endurance. So if I'm a team leader, when I am leading a team, this is what I want from my team on that soft skills side, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I'm looking for. And as I continue to put this content in front of team leaders, there's nobody that's looking at that list going, I don't want energy. Like, who are you to put that on there? Like, growth, who cares about that? No, this is all team leaders are nodding their head in agreement. And what I really is really encouraging, they're going, you're putting to words what I've been trying to say, or what I've been feeling, or what I've been thinking for a long time. This is the vocabulary I'm looking for. I want a team who is energetic. They bring a positive attitude with them as many days a week as they can, right? They're diligent, meaning they have a care and a persistence towards the actual work that they're doing. They grow, they have that, to use Carol Dweck's, that growth mindset. So they want to grow as an individual. And then this is key. They also want to see the organization grow. And so they're not mad when you're opening up a new campus. They're not upset when you just acquired a new company. They're not upset when you got 5 new clients. They're going, this is amazing, right? This is amazing. We're growing. And then that endurance, which is just the ability to bounce back from adversity and setbacks. If you can get those 3 things or those 4 things and start to do those as a young leader, that's when you're going to pop. That's when you're going to start to stand out.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm excited to unpack this. And like I shared, if you sit in an IC seat and you're hoping to grow one day, listen up, pay attention. But more importantly, managers, if you're feeling that tinge of unspoken disappointment, like you're actually like disappointed, you feel that way, that you feel disappointed. I'm just going to give you some really great tips to how do you unpack this. Let's define this a little bit more. This is my favorite one because this is I'm rereading How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's what, 80 years old at this point, if not older. That book was written in the 1930 something. But the timeless truths of that. And in the very first point, is all about this energy piece. Like people want to be around people who are smiling. I think the literal chapter is smile.
Which seems so basic and elementary, right? And there's some of this stuff that I think about for team leaders, that some of them may react to energy, diligence, growth, endurance, and the coaching and just go like, why am I teaching these people skills to the people on my team? And this feels unfair. This feels like this is what their high school should have done, or what college should have done, or their family should have done, or their church or whatever organization. The Boy Scouts should have taught this to people. And I don't know why. But right now, I think there is a lot of just life coaching that team leaders need to be doing. And you can look at that as frustrating, or you can look at that as an amazing privilege. And I really think it is an incredible privilege that we have right now to teach the new generation that's coming into the workforce some of these basics of life. And so energy is clearly one of those, that the way you carry yourself and that positive energy that you bring to your team, it goes so far. And again, I'll go back and reference just the loneliness that a lot of team leaders can feel. They can feel like they're out on an island sometimes, and they're the only ones who seem to care or be energized about growing. And so as a young leader, if you can bring some of that positive energy to your team as many days as possible, you are just gonna pop. You really are. It's one of the maybe the biggest cheat code that I think is in the book, right? Like, hey, team leader, you just want to start to do something, just be excited in the meetings. Not fake, be authentic with it, but start to say yes to things, be energized about things. And that is really, really, really going to help you. And again, I think the way that we as leaders of young leaders can help them is getting them to start to connect the dots, right? Getting them to start to connect the dots between the energy that they bring, or why are they struggling to bring energy? Why are they struggling to bring energy? These are some of the great conversations that we can have. And one of the illustrations of somebody in my own career that I've seen that just brought an amazing amount of energy, and is my friend Caitlin Van Wagner, who I worked with over at Watermark. She showed up on the scene a couple of years ago, working on the communications team. And I just don't know if I've ever seen anybody have a more meteoric rise in the organization. She brought, and this is why, she just brought energy to every meeting that she was in. She was excited about the projects that people were working on. She was energetically trying to solve problems for those projects. She was thinking about ways to improve certain things. She would walk out of meetings and people are just looking around going, how can we get her in more of these meetings? And so this is, if Caitlin were on here, she's got one of the best senses of humor and self-deprecating humor. She would be the first to just go, I don't know if I'm the smartest person in the room, right? But I can be the most energetic person in the room. She's really smart, but she just knows that's one of her competitive advantages, is that she just knows how to bring energy, and it's so authentic when she does it. And so I think this is some language that we need to use if we think about some people on our team right now, and just ask ourselves, is this what I feel like is missing from this individual? Are they just, are they just kind of blank-faced in all the meetings? They're not even taking notes. When we have a new project, they're just kind of like shrugging their shoulders. They're just down on all their calls. Like there just is no energy that's there. Then this may be a coaching opportunity for you, is just to share, hey, we could use some motivation, some optimism, and some gratitude. Those are some very simple ways for you to show that you have a positive attitude and you don't mind being here, right? Or it's going to lead to a great conversation, which is why are you struggling to bring some energy?
And just like you shared with Caitlin, it's contagious and people want to be around it. And then there is nothing worse than having someone aloof on your team. I think that's worse than even being mopey. Like, I think someone that just maybe even sits in the middle and you're not even sure what's going on. So, man, that makes it hard for a leader.
It really does, because what it does as a team leader is it's now tense if you want to delegate a task to that person, right? Now you feel like you're walking on eggshells to go to that person and even say, hey, would you be willing to maybe research this or do this? And that's just not productive and not fair, really, to a lot of team leaders to feel like, oh, I can't go to that person over there because I don't know if they have any energy to be able to do this, or their energy seems so low towards this, and I don't want to make them mad. And so again, the purpose of having a conversation with your team to just go, hey, here's some observations. Energy, how do you feel like you're doing on this? I feel like it's a little bit low. Is there something behind that? Because you may just learn that somebody temperament wise, they're just a little bit more low energy. They are super excited about it. But again, engaging in that conversation can be really helpful to know that they are all in, or they do have that positive attitude. And so they may learn a few things on ways that they can show it. You may learn a few things to understand people are different in the way that they express their energy. But the point is to have that conversation around this topic.
Absolutely. My husband falls into the category you were just sharing. He is a 5 on the Enneagram. He is an ISTJ. And oddly enough, he is a professional communicator. And so he definitely has to work at this a little bit more. And it never became more clear to him than when he was on a fishing trip with some of his best friends, and he caught an incredible redfish here off our coast, and it's massive. And he was so excited. This is what he said. I'm so pumped, like just like that, even toned. And they're like, dude, like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, I'm really excited. And he realized, like, I have to actually, show that I'm energetic and show that I'm really grateful, have some optimism. And in the book, you actually talk about when you know your why, it leads to motivation, and with motivation, it leads to energy. And I loved that segue a little bit more. And we could, seriously, I could talk about your book all day, but let's dive into diligence. I love this because man, this is another part that really, like, even if you just hone in on one of them, I think diligence really can kind of set you apart. And it's more than just the care and persistence, like, and how you approach that. Like, unpack some of these words for us. So you have here resourcefulness, productivity, competence.
Yeah. Again, so a lot of team leaders may be disappointed to not know, does somebody even care about the work that they're doing? Do they feel a sense of personal responsibility? Do they feel like their reputation is on the line when they complete a project or something like that? And so, that way you approach your work, if you can approach it with care and persistence, if you let people know, I really care about the work that I'm doing right now, and I want to pursue excellence, or whatever it is that you want to say there, that shows that you're being diligent with all this, which again is a way to stand out by showing that you're all in. I think the key here for leaders of young leaders, what we want to help them do, again, I don't know why some people are not learning this, but this is the opportunity that we have right now with young leaders on our team, is helping them understand that the fastest way to build trust in your organization or on your team is by competence, is by doing their job well. If they can do their job well, do what they were hired to do with excellence, with care, with persistence, more opportunity is going to come their way, not less. And I saw that in my own career, where when I graduated from college and I went to go work as an auditor with PricewaterhouseCoopers there in Atlanta. I mean, really, I never really spoke this out loud, but my goal was just to be a good guy. Right? I just wanted to be the nice guy around the firm. I wanted to be a person of character, which is great, right? That's obviously great to be a person of character. What I didn't know is that the partners who hired me assumed I was a person of good character. That's why they hired me. They were not skeptical of my character. They were skeptical of my competence. And so I'm going in there just going, I'm going to show how I'm a person of character and care about people and love people here and try to have, deep conversations and be positive and kind and nice to everybody and be kind to the clients and engage them in conversations and ask them questions and listen and remember, all great things. but I was a pretty crappy auditor, right? I'm turning in very shoddy work. And so, I'm having some hard conversations and I'm like, but don't you see my potential, right? Like, look at this character that's over here.
That's so nice.
And so I wasn't getting more opportunities or the opportunities that I felt like I deserved. And it wasn't until I connected those dots and understood, oh, okay, competence, that's the way you get to really become a person of influence with this organization. And so again, helping young leaders understand that if you want more around here, then crush what you've got right now. That's the fastest way. I'm going to trust you more when you really are competent and prove your competence. And so I think that's the opportunity there with diligence that we have when it comes to coaching young leaders, is helping them to connect those dots and understand that this is the best way to do that.
Oh, I love that. I mean, there's so much to dive into. But let's talk about growth.
Yeah. So growth, this hunger for progress and development that we embody. And so again, this idea that you want to grow yourself and you also want to see the organization grow. And so again, if I think about the ways that leaders can help young leaders with this, I think it is helping them to understand that everybody really has a second job title, and that second job title is you're also your own chief development officer. So, I mean, there's a lot of organizations that do great things to try to train up and develop their staff. And those are great supplements to your own personal growth, but they can't be a substitute. It can't be the only thing that is a part of your growth plan. And so we've got to have some good self-leadership. We've got to learn how to think like those owners. We've got to embrace all the adversity or the changes that come our way and grow by being flexible and understand that all of these things fit together to help you. But that one piece about learning to be your own chief development officer is crucial. And, again, what I started to see, and like a cheat code that I share with young leaders, is like, just go listen to a podcast, go read a book, go watch a YouTube video. And I promise you, you're going to be in a team meeting soon where what you just learned is going to be relevant to that conversation. And you're going to raise your hand and say, I was just reading this, or I just learned this. And you're going to share an idea. I'm telling you, you're going to win that meeting, right? Like, everybody's going to be like, that was amazing. That was amazing. Why? Okay, what's more? And that can help you develop that appetite to go, okay, all right, I see how this can work, right? That allows me to really add some value. And so what else is there that I can go learn in all this? But really, those leaders that are popping right now, the young leaders, are the ones that are not sitting around waiting to be developed. They're taking the initiative and really taking some steps on that self-development, that self-leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually, I would say this is one of the secrets to my own growth. Personally, was what I put into something is what I was going to get out of it. I had 5 majors in college.
5?
Yeah, it's really sad. It's sad. I don't say that often. The one I landed on, when I graduated with, was a degree in nursing. And
okay,
you can see I'm clearly not a nurse.
You are nursing right now. Yes.
I am not. I graduated, did not take the NCLEX. My parents, they said if I didn't have to take the NCLEX, I didn't want to. But they said, you were going to, like, you're not changing your major again, like, enough. And so pick something, stick with it. I learned a lot in that, but my first job out of college, since I didn't take the NCLEX, was an accounts payable clerk. And I hated it. Anybody that knows me today knows that data entry is not my thing. So I never felt like I was really released. I was learning a lot, and I really liked the people I worked with. The organization was incredible. So I started to learn to multitask and listen to podcasts while I was doing data entry. And man, just learning those little wisdoms and the nuggets, like it really helped propel me where I was going. And I was promoted every year into what I ended up creating, like a position within that team for myself. Awesome. And it's really launched my career for where I am. I became the communications coordinator inside a finance office of a large nonprofit. And here I am today, getting to communicate with all of you because I took the time to take some ownership there.
It's amazing, Karissa, because those of us that have been out of school for a few years and have been able to go through a few promotions, I think what we look at when we see the edge is we see really our own story in a lot of this, right? Like in many ways, you said this isn't any groundbreaking new information. It's just put together with some other stories and maybe some ways to make it a little bit more attainable or easier to remember, or we maybe give you a couple conversation prompts in the book that really help you as you lead your team. But in many ways, I think leaders are going to read this and just go, oh, this is what I've done, right? And you're a great example of that. So you took that initiative to go, I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep being diligent and adding some skills. And then you have a career that was like the Seinfeld episode 2, right? It all came together and you started to see how it all worked out.
Yes, absolutely. And, for executive leaders, if you're trying to figure out how to push this down into your organization, one thing here that we do at Leadr is called Leaders Develop Leaders. And that is one of our core values, but it's actually a bi-weekly meeting where our executive team takes the charge and leads our middle managers. So anybody that leads somebody is invited to this meeting. And it's literally the things that you learned along the way that maybe you forgot that somebody taught you, or you learned, or you picked up along the way, and just passing that down to your middle managers, because that's where culture leaks. Yeah. And so if we can help from the executive level, our middle managers win by just sharing some of those pieces, this growth stuff, I mean, not only does their personal growth, but when you grow personally, the entire organization moves forward well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, let's cover this last one real quick, and then we can go to some Q&A. How about that? So endurance would be the last one there, just the character that we demonstrate in the face of difficulty. And so again, I think the opportunity that leaders that we've got for the young leaders on our team is to help them understand and see that things grow over time. They don't grow overnight. And this is what's really, really interesting with the younger generation that is so connected to social media and their phones and YouTube, like they grew up in a different generation than us. And I'm seeing this with my sons. My sons are both, I've got a 14-year-old, 12-year-old. They're Gen Z, right? So by all the ages, they are in Gen Z. One of their favorite YouTubers is this guy, Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast. I don't know if anybody's got young kids out there or teenage boys. They probably know who Mr. Beast is. He's got one of the biggest followings on YouTube. He's got multiple channels, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people subscribe to his channels and watch his videos. He does ridiculous things, giving $1 million away. I mean, just does all this stuff. So my boys see Mr. Beast now, after years and years and years and years of practice and making amazing videos, so they think that the path to success is just put a few videos out on YouTube and you'll have millions of followers. And so the conversations that I'm having with them is going, boys, you don't know. He made some really bad videos probably for a couple of years that nobody was watching. He stuck with it. When he only had 4 views on a video or 20 views on a video or 30 views on a video, he stuck with it and kept honing his craft. And then eventually it seemed like, where he was able to achieve success. And so there is no such thing as an overnight success. And so you've got to be able to bounce back from hardship. You've got to be able to learn how to navigate hard conversations at work, and you've got to be patient. You've got to be patient and understand that your growth takes time. You do all those, and now you're going to be dangerous, because you are going to not be afraid when difficulty pops up, and you're really going to be able to endure some of these things, which is true for every professional, right? We've all have to build that endurance. And so I think that's the real opportunity for those of us that are leading that next generation, is just reminding them that things happen over time, not overnight. And so going through some of these hardships right now, going through some of these work valleys, it doesn't mean you have to change your job necessarily. It may just mean you're going through a season where you're developing some resilience or building some patience.
Yeah. The best advice I've ever been given as a young leader is remain unoffendable.
Yeah, that's good.
When you can remain unoffendable, I think that's the secret to that endurance piece, to build some grit and, to just get up every time you get knocked down, because those things do happen. So how you respond to it's exactly going to set you apart. Well, as you all are dropping in your questions for Adam in the chat feature, we cannot wait to get to them. I'm already seeing some exciting ones come through, so it'll be super fun. Adam, I'd love to hear, you partner with Leadr for a reason. Yeah. We're obviously a technology company, people development software. Give us some tips and tricks, maybe what this could look like in a one-on-one meeting. How would you use technology to be able to coach and develop these pieces?
Yeah, I think what I love about this is sometimes if you can introduce concepts from a third party, then it's easier to engage in a conversation on that. And so I think there's some ways where you can use the things from the book, or we've created some videos, and we've got some resources out on my website on adamtarnow.com, where these can really just be conversation starters. I think that's the thing that we would be aiming for here, is how can I engage in a conversation with people on my team about these concepts, right? And so it can be, I can be the third party, and David and I can be the third party, and then go, they said energy is important. Do you agree? Right. And what do you think about that? And would you rank yourself on that? And so in using a tool like Leadr in your one-on-ones to be able to just have some of these, and you can break them down, you can have a conversation about each of the chapters or concepts from just the overall framework. But that's the key, is just going, hey, somebody over here said this is important. Agree, disagree? Let's talk about it. How do you think you're doing? How do you think I'm doing? And really trying to make those one-on-ones very developmental focused and very conversation oriented.
Absolutely. Some really fun questions that I like to ask in my one-on-ones are, what is something you are proud of that you've done that used your strengths outside of work?
That's right.
And then maybe that gets them thinking a little bit and like, okay, apply that same thing to what are something you're proud of, a strength that you did inside of work and in your day-to-day to help start coaching some of those things.
That's excellent. Right. That's puzzle pieces stuff, right? So what did you do outside of work that you loved? All right. What is that a clue on what that person really enjoys and what they really like, and getting to help them with that? I love that. That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks. I learned it from some really great people.
Yes.
All right, let's dive into some questions, some Q&A. Someone is asking here in the chat, what is a practical next step? Like, if I need to start doing this, what is something I can do to get my current employees more engaged? How do I get them to be all in?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you only control you, right? So you don't control them. You can try to influence them. And so I'll go back to what I just said a few moments ago with trying to drive those conversations and using the third party to make that conversation less awkward. So it's not coming across so much like, hey, here's something I've been noticing about you and I want to talk about it, which can be a little off-putting to some. But a little bit more of, hey, here's something I'm learning, some concepts I'm being introduced to. I'd love to know how you think about this, and really trying to drive a conversation. I would imagine at some point, somebody's going to put something in the chat on a comment or a question about this whole quiet quitting, quiet firing, quiet whatever, the next thing's going to be great resignation, all that kind of stuff. And so as I've been in rooms with leaders training over the past couple of weeks, and we've been talking about quiet quitting and this phenomenon, and I love this conversation right now. I think this could be a phenomenal opportunity for employees and employers to really learn a lot about each other, to not just be shouting things out online towards each other, but just to go, let's talk, and not assuming that everybody on your team has the same career aspirations as you. Not everybody on the team has the same motivations as you. Because I think one of the things we do as team leaders sometimes is we just try to create people that look and act like us, right? Like, I was successful, that's why I'm here. And so what's the path? Well, just do what I did. And there are multiple ways to be successful. And I think if we really want to engage this next generation to help them feel seen, known, heard, then we want to start with, where do you want to be, right? So we're both here right now, but where do you even want to be? And what can I do to help you get there? So I think it's just using these tools just to start talking and listening and learning. That's where we're going to start to then see what are the things that you practically can do to start making changes in your organization.
I love that. So let's talk about navigating. Maybe you have a whole team that is like this, because the Great Resignation happened. So the job market's hot. Anybody can get hired. Basically, like if you've got a brain, maybe, like, I don't even know if you needed one, like monkeys basically and robots started filling in some roles for the most part. Right. And so you're actually hiring this disengaged percentage. And so maybe you've got a brand new team, everything's kind of turned over from the recession and the Great Resignation. And now you've got a whole team of what they think they're so unique. This next generation call it quiet quitting, and you want to quiet fire them. So talk about maybe from a cultural standpoint as a leader, what you can do for your team.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to have some good expectations. We've got to let it be known what are those bare minimums to meet expectations. And this is what, I pay you to do this. And if we're not doing this, then the payment relationship may change, right? I think some of this is also helping people, like anybody can make any choice about their career that they want, right? Anybody, that is their freedom and their choice to make about what they want out of their career. But I'll use an old parenting saying, right? Like you can choose your actions, but you don't get to choose your consequences. I tell that to my boys all the time. So anybody can make any choice they want in the type of career they want, how fast they want to move in their career, how slow. But you can't, like, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. So there are some consequences to those decisions, and those consequences, there's no judgment or shame in that. So there are some people that may really just go, I just want to work 35, 40 hours a week. I just want to do this. I want to show up at 8. I want to leave at 5. And I'm completely fine that raises may be like this, or promotions may be like this, or that I may stay in this job for 25 years right here doing this. Man, more power to them. In some ways, as a team leader, that could be a huge blessing to go, all right. I mean, it's great to have some stability on our team. And so great that I don't have this rising rock star that I'm fearing is going to leave me one day. So again, I think it's just starting with these conversations and understanding that people are different. And you really want to try to understand what is it that motivates them. And these are the questions that we can ask and use all kinds of tools, like Edge may be one of them, to just start going, what is it that you want? And how can I help you get there?
Oh, I love it. Well, back to it. The book is The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In. You wrote this for the emerging leader, but man, there is so much practical stuff. And someone who sits in an ICC, not only am I trying to get into my leader's head, but their leader's head, so I can help them learn and grow. And maybe some of that reverse psychology might work well for these leaders, getting inside of their team's head so that way they can help them grow. And The Edge is a perfect way to do that.
Yes. Well, awesome. I appreciate that. It's been a fun conversation today, Karissa, and hopefully people found this valuable. And just, again, it's a great opportunity right now to be a team leader. So you got 2 options. You can sit there and just be disappointed and talk to your friends and talk to your coworkers and just speak down to the next generation, complain, blame, talk about how different they are. That's one way you can respond to this moment. Or the other way is to understand the amazing opportunity you have to develop the next generation of leaders and engage in some great conversations with them and learn and help them grow. And I think that's where, back to the point you made at the very beginning, Karissa, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction and meaning that can come from our work sometimes. And I just wonder, for many of us, like for so many of us that are team leaders right now, the most important thing that we do in our career may not be some business that we sold or some amazing project that we completed. The most important thing we may do, as we look back, it may be somebody that we developed and somebody that we helped. And that's the opportunity we've got right now. And so hopefully the tools that we've been talking about today will help you feel empowered on how to do that, give you some language that you can use, and really take advantage of this amazing opportunity you've got to coach and lead the next generation.
Oh, awesome. Well, it was absolutely my honor, Adam. I cannot thank you enough for joining us today, for sharing so much wisdom, and for taking such a concept that everyone could just probably splatter all across, but you brought it all together for us, and I could not be more grateful. So thank you, everyone. We are so grateful for your time. Thank Adam for us again, and we will see you next Thursday. Same time, same place, and we'll be talking about goals and what does it look like to set goals that you really are going to accomplish. We've got a mystery guest for you. We cannot wait for you.
I was just about to ask you who's going to be the person. So now we have to tune in. So
yes,
that's great.
You have to find out. So we'll see you next week. Thank you again, Adam. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, everybody. Bye.